2:10 p.m. on December 7th, 1921, four armed individuals emerged from a sleek automobile and infiltrated the Michigan Exchange branch of the Grand Rapids Savings Bank. Bank manager R.A. Westrate and the teller, Cornelius DeMagd, were busy working when a menacing figure strolled into Westrate's office, barking the infamous command, "Put 'em up." The bandits coerced the teller, manager, and bookkeeper, Abel Vander Wood, to the back of the bank at gunpoint. Two unsuspecting bank customers were also reluctantly ushered to the back as the robbers methodically cleared out the cash from the teller's cage. Even those who innocently entered the bank for business found themselves held hostage with the others. Once the cage was completely emptied, the bandits commanded the manager to unlock the safe. The bankers and customers alike were marched into an open vault. The vault contained the bank's records but no cash. Attempting to seal the fate of the 7 individuals inside, the crooks grappled with the vault door, attempting to secure it. Despite their efforts, the door stubbornly remained slightly ajar. Throughout the ordeal, the bandits exhibited a remarkable level of professionalism, executing their plan with a methodical calmness without any appearance of urgency. They pilfered the bank without breaking a sweat, disappearing as discreetly as they had arrived. After a few minutes in confinement, the vault's occupants escaped, but by then, the culprits had already covered considerable ground in a rush through Grand Rapids. The police swarmed the vicinity around the bank, every detective mobilized, and all patrolmen were put on high alert for any suspicious characters. Despite this concerted police effort, the law was nowhere near closing in on the gangsters. However, their luck took a turn when the getaway driver decided to take an unnecessary gamble behind the wheel. The Buick's driver wagered with one of his passengers that he could outpace a Michigan Central freight train to a railroad crossing. At 2:20 p.m., a mere 10 minutes after the bank heist, the Buick collided with the oncoming freight train at the Hall Street crossing. Astonishingly, none of the bandits died from the impact, with the most severely injured merely suffering a deep facial wound. Bystanders rushed to assist in extricating the men from the mangled vehicle, only to be met with surprise as the passengers began emerging from the wreckage. Pointing guns at the bystanders, the gang stole one of the men's vehicle and sped away. Upon the police showing up, an inspection of the license plate number with the state revealed the car had been stolen 2 weeks prior in Grand Rapids. The gang lay low in a safe house they had rented within Grand Rapids. Ironically, one of the witnesses of the car crash, named Gerard, happened to live across the street from the robbers' hideout. Gerard called the police to report suspicious activities he observed at the house during all hours of the night. Detective Samuel Slater, a seasoned lawman with more than a few close calls under his belt, found himself tasked with investigating the tip. Convinced that the tip would likely lead to nothing, Slater adhered to protocol and brought along Special Officer George Brandsma as backup. Upon reaching Weaver Street, the duo conversed with Gerard, observed the apparently darkened house for a few minutes, and decided to cross the street and knock on the door. Detective Slater began ascending the porch steps when 2 shots rang out from within the house. The bullets passed through the closed front door, hitting Slater's body and causing him to stagger backward. Undeterred, Officer Brandsma, without drawing his sidearm, charged past his partner, crashed through the still-closed front door, and was met with a barrage of gunfire. 2 bullets struck Brandsma's heart, and a third pierced his head, each wound proving fatal. Hearing the gunshots, Gerard swiftly called the police. Somehow managing to stumble back across the street, Detective Slater was met at the door by Gerard, who helped him into a chair. In critical condition, Slater was rushed to the hospital in an ambulance. The atmosphere in the hospital was heavy with tension as Detective Slater was wheeled in on a gurney, his wife already present at his side. A priest administered last rites to the critically wounded man before he was hurried into surgery. In the aftermath of the shooting, witnesses observed 3 men and a blonde woman fleeing to a detached garage. They raced out of the garage and headed west down Weaver Street. Moments later, a 4th man emerged from the house, hopped into a small, concealed car behind the bungalow, and sped after the first car. A rallying cry echoed through the city as over 50 civilians armed with Springfield rifles gathered at police headquarters, eager to join the hunt for the robbers. Throughout the night, this impromptu posse scoured the surrounding countryside, but found no trace of the elusive criminals. The police, toiled through the night, chasing down every lead and tip that emerged. The Grand Rapids Superintendent of Police reached out to neighboring towns within a 200-mile radius, urging them to assist in the search for the bandits. Sheriffs in adjoining counties conducted extensive patrols, briefly questioning a couple of suspects, including a blonde woman, who were later released. Despite these efforts, the killers seemed to vanish into thin air, giving rise to wild rumors and sensationalized stories in newspapers. Unfounded reports claimed sightings and shootouts, with different towns asserting to be the scene of a fierce battle between the gang and the law. Throughout Thursday, Detective Slater clung to life, with reports fluctuating from imminent death to moments of survival. On Friday morning, December 9th, 1921, Samuel Slater marked his 53rd birthday, only to pass away that afternoon at 2:30 p.m. in Grand Rapids St. Mary's Hospital. Slater, a father of 3 daughters, had been shot while his oldest was in the midst of buying him a Christmas present. George Brandsma, at 38, was a devoted family man with 5 children, the youngest being just 15 months old. Only 2 hours before his tragic murder, he had bid goodnight to his family. Having recently been promoted to Special Officer of the Night Squad a month prior, Brandsma was dedicated to his role in law enforcement. While only one of the armed robbers has been identified, it's likely that the killers continued their criminal activities, robbing more banks. Leo Bolger, the driver of the getaway car, was the sole individual captured and convicted of the robbery. He received a life sentence in Jackson State Prison. Bolger became unintentionally involved in a violent escape attempt by 3 Detroit criminals in 1931. The convicts, armed with smuggled revolvers, created chaos, shooting a doctor and taking hostages. Bolger intervened during the incident, despite being shot himself. The convicts, cornered in a building, engaged in a fierce battle with prison guards, and then committed suicide. Bolger's bravery led to a commuted sentence. Bolger was released with the condition of finding employment, but the subsequent chapters of his life are unknown.